I just want to quickly welcome everyone in and massive shout out to our GigaDAO community and shout out to the Foxes as well. And to those who are grinding hard to be a part of the BeJoe community, a shout out to you guys. Thanks for coming and thanks for joining us. The entire purpose of today is just to chat. I think it's been a long time since we got to appreciate the blood, sweat and tears that founders put into their work. And it's really up to you guys if you do want to talk about things that you've got coming up and you want to share some information, but at the same time, there's absolutely no pressure. I'd much rather you be able to just enjoy yourselves here a little bit, chill out and enjoy it. And I hope Draxxts and Sandman, you've both had coffee this morning as well. Yeah, I just a quick question to Wing. Are you now helping with the development side of things? You've jumped in with Sandman and are coordinating things now.
No, not really. I'm just engagement farming up here.
Oh, right. Okay.
I'm just gonna mute and chill for a while.
Well, I mean, even though you kind of joined Sandman, I definitely would consider you kind of like a co-founder or supporting founder, only just because you've done so much to support the BeJoe project so far. You dived headfirst into it, which is very cool because Sandman, I must say, he came to me and he's like, should I do this? And I said, do what you want. And since then, he's just 100% all in, helping you out and managing his other job as well, which is very impressive. But that's the Wing. You're very lucky to have that, man.
Yeah, we're actually three co-founders. So anything that looked good on the project is Christina's responsibility, right? So she's not really she doesn't really use Twitter much, but she's like a product designer. So between the three of us, we're kind of grinding pretty hard right now.
Yeah, I bet. And you're coming up to the most critical stage where you don't get that chance to stop, which can be really difficult. So I hope you guys are ready. From my own personal experience, it does take a lot out of you. And please, Sandman and Wing, make sure you get some rest. You need to, otherwise you're just going to end up extremely tired after. And that's when the fun really starts.
Well, you did do a 12-hour mint spaces, didn't you?
Yeah.
Was it 12 or longer?
I think it was a 10-hour space.
That's right.
Yeah, don't do that. That killed me. But anyway, I'm going to stop talking. Sandman, how have you been and how are you feeling at the moment? Coming from where you were, 12 months ago, I know you've been working a lot longer than that, but how are you feeling now that you're kind of starting to see things come to fruition and your dream is slowly starting to be realized?
Yeah, I mean, compared to a year ago, I feel like we've definitely gotten a lot better in terms of just organization and being able to, move things in parallel. Obviously, the vision was always to be well prepared for moments like these. And I think the team we have now has kind of, been put through the ringer enough to be able to do that. So in terms of, the progression and where we are now, I'm definitely very happy. Obviously, with this project, we purposefully put a lot on our plate. I feel like we could have done a lot less, but I think the whole point was to not only set these standards for ourselves, but also, just set a precedent of, we are capable of doing things, in terms of, products or IP or whatever it is, at a high level in a short span of time, just to kind of give holders a sense of what to expect. We want to keep improving and, putting out more things, but I think considering all the things that we were essentially promising after Mint, I felt it was very necessary for us to showcase some of these skills beforehand. Because if I was an investor myself and I heard this, a group of devs come out of the woodworks and promise, what we are promising, I think without having any proof of concept, it would have been very hard to kind of take them seriously. And I think the reason why, Wing has been so crucial as one of the co-founders in the project is because we really needed that leverage and that trust that he had established within the community. And I think, you can have the best products if the support isn't there, if that base isn't established already. I think it's very difficult. And so he has been crucial in just, giving us that platform to kind of explode off of. And we've seen how significant that has been. The game, obviously I didn't have any ideas of how well the game would do, but, it's done very well in a short span of time, and the interest,
amazingly well. How many plays have you had so far?
Close to 100K. And to me, that's bonkers. Considering, yeah. considering everything that has happened in the space, in this time, it worked out very well for us. I feel like it's given us a good chance to establish ourselves, and obviously people are still very interested in getting these new experiences that they might have not been exposed to beforehand. So it was a perfect storm for us. And I'm very result oriented, and I feel like the result we have gotten have been very promising, and it's kind of very motivating for not only me but the rest of the devs to see this kind of excitement around the simple thing that we just we didn't even have it planned. And I was talking to Wing about this. It was something we wanted to do very quickly just to kind of showcase, and I think been accepted pretty well, and I'm very happy about that.
Yeah, I love it. I think the best kind of dopamine is when you successfully launch something and people actually enjoy it. I'll say I've rage quit from that game a few times now. I'm not going to play it again. I can't handle that kind of stress in my life. But it's well made, and it is enjoyable until I keep getting hit by that same chair. I just never learn my lesson, and I never avoid it. But congrats to you guys and getting that out and pushing it through. And like you said, there's so many people that are promising things, and without that delivery and the execution on delivery, it can sometimes just lead to a lot of disappointment. But I love the idea of kind of pushing yourselves and seeing what you are actually able to execute in a short period of time. I think it's important that people can see that as well, because then they can build more faith in you as a founder, as a manager, people manager, process management, and everything that comes with that. I'm very impressed. I'm a bit of a fanboy, and I'm looking forward to everything else that you put out. I don't know what you have spoken about so far, but have you given any hints to what is actually coming and what's going to be available for them in the next few months?
Yeah, so, and I think Wing can speak a lot more on that, but the pre-sale presentations we did that sold out pretty quickly. I mean, they know the info, and I guess once you do know the full picture of what's going to happen with BeJoe, it kind of becomes it becomes a lot easier to make the decision of getting in. But we selectively wanted to kind of withhold a lot of information from the general public, because I do want that sense of risk to also be involved in doing something like this. If we presented everything to everyone, at the same time, I feel like a lot of the excitement of taking that leap, kind of parallel to the lore that was saying, kind of Joe jumped into this, unknown. I want people to also experience that. We gave them enough for them to feel at least, somewhat confident in our abilities, but I still want that excitement that I've experienced before, when you're just kind of aping in without really knowing to the full capacity, like what's going to happen. And I think that's what makes it ultimately exciting. If it when it does kind of blow up and more people come in, and all those good things with floor price and volume and stuff like that. But I think Wing, you can add on to this a little bit better than I.
Yeah, I was just going to say that, like when we started this journey, you showed me a lot of the tech that you had built or were building, and you said, like, how can people ignore we have so much tech? And I said, no, you never lead with the tech, right? It's like you need to build that anticipation, and then we drop things when we need to drop them, instead of just dropping everything at first, because it's 100% an attention game as much as it is like utility and art and community and all of that good stuff. So I think just like what we, the combination and the way that we kind of formed this strategy to kind of go to market, right? And leading with the storytelling, with the animations, hooking people in, a bit of mystery, making them kind of want more and see what's coming next. That theme's definitely going to continue. We want to keep the mystery up. It's funny, a lot of people DM me and said, hey, what are you planning to do? And I was like, well, everything that we want to share is already out there. So I'm not going to tell you any more than that. Like, just go and have a look and then wait for the things to happen. I think that's the way that the best projects do it. You don't know what's coming. You're on the edge of your seat, like trying to figure out what it is. What are these crazy people cooking up? I mean, with our pre-sale deck, we did demonstrate a lot of the tech that we've already built, a lot of the games and stuff. So it's quite obvious now that we do build games. But there's a lot more in the pipeline, a lot more plans, ideas, things we've already built that we're just not gonna let on yet. We're gonna wait until it's the right time to do. So
It's like a game of balance as well, because you certainly have the ammunition to just throw out there and generate kind of a mass amount of hype over all that technology that you have. But then there's also the risk of flooding it too much and people not being able to kind of laser focus on what you really want to try and sell right now. So it's like a risk game for you guys. You could just throw it all out there and try and generate this hype, but I feel like you're risking it a little bit, and it's paying off obviously because it's doing so well. You know, when you guys first launched, it was a lot of people were just talking about the Discord bot, but even that got hype, mainly because you're an NFT project, but it got hype anyway, and people were talking about it more and more. And then obviously you brought out the animations, which are great, and I've been following along, feel like a bit of a Joe myself. And then you kind of dropped that whitelist game, and obviously everyone went bonkers, which is really cool. And from what I understand, it's not even the surface of what you guys have actually done yet. So I'm big fans of how you've managed this, and I think, Sandman, you made a good choice by speaking to Wing, because you've been in this space, Wing, for almost 2 years now. So it's almost 2 years, right? One more month, and it's a 2-year mark.
Oh, it's longer than 2 years, right? Think about those stuff we were minting back in 2021.
Oh, yeah, the ETH, yeah.
Oh, I suppose if you're talking about Solana NFTs, then it's probably July. I'm not sure. When did SMBs and DigiDAPes met? Thugbirds and Solamas. It was whenever
Solamas, yeah. Well, that's when I came in. Yeah, I refused to touch NFTs while you were telling me to do it, because I was just so excited, so exhausted from that 2021 bull run. And you're like, nah, come on. And you were showing me the gains on those, the ETH parallel cards. And I'm like, let's do it. And then I had the Solamas. And I think I minted 3 of those and ended up selling each of them for 10 or 11 SOL each. So that's what got me hooked. But
in 2021, it's a sizable amount of like soul worth a lot more, right? It's funny, actually, I dragged you kicking and screaming back into crypto, and now you moved country, started your own place, doing this full time. So it's my fault. 100%.
I did not want to get back into crypto at all. And you know that. I was exhausted. It was such an intense bull run. And I was ready. I'm like, all right, I've got my money. I'm going to go back to work. I'm going to go back to saving for my dream. Going to make it happen. I think back then I wanted to build my own hobby farm and kind of have that sustainable living. And that's what I was aiming for. And then within 2 months, I ended up going full-time into, well, not full-time, but after around 3 or 4 months, I went full-time into NFTs. What a run. It's been beautiful though. And Draxxts is back. Welcome back, Draxxts.
I am, yeah, sorry about that. Loki, my wife had an appointment today. We're expecting a baby in August, so supposed to be earlier, and she wanted me to FaceTime for a scan for a little bit. So I told her that I could pop off for like a couple of minutes. So apologies for that.
Congrats, man.
Thanks.
I was going to say, should founders be allowed to have children?
I was going to say, this is my second, so I think I've figured it out for the most part. I don't know about for 2. I think that's going to change up the game a little bit for me.
I'm actually having my second at the end of July as well.
Oh.
So we're entirely the same.
Congrats, man. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, my first one was a July baby, so this one's an August baby.
I'm gonna mint one too now, since everybody's doing it.
What?
He's going to go to the mint.
I would have mint one.
You're going to mint one. Yeah. Jeff, we might accidentally mint 2.
I'm definitely staying away from that rug, guys. There's no way I'm touching that.
It's the slowest of rugs.
So, Drax, have you met, I assume you've met Wing, right? Because you've been in this space for so long, but have you met Sandman from BeJoe yet?
I'm sure we probably crossed paths, but I think it's probably been a minute.
I'm not really sure. I've been kind of, you've seen Belac. I've been in the Gulag for a year now, trying to figure this out. Like this was like a coming out party. I'm not sure. Maybe we have, but maybe I don't recall. It's been a long time.
So, well, here's an introduction. Draxxts is the co-founder of Famous Fox Federation, along with Foxy Dev. And Draxxts, do you just want to explain a bit about what you do for Foxy Dev? Because I'm pretty sure the 3 of us align really well in terms of responsibilities.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, I think at its core, being 2 co-founders of a project, especially for Famous Fox is kind of what we've grown it to. We've kind of had to take roles that are a combination of things. So I just consider it like business dev and then dev side. But really we have a lot of like overlapping responsibilities and just different like holes to kind of fill. So it could be anything from, you know, like partnerships, you know, obviously ideation for like future things that we're creating, you know, our current tool sets, getting feedback from people, building it in. It could be approving tokens, collections, all that kind of stuff. Some things are like more automated than others, but, you know, essentially to try and take whatever weight I can from dev and even to kind of leverage our team to really expand from there. So it could be talking about marketing. You know, we've recently, not recently, but over the past few months, I've broken into like Instagram marketing. So we've brought on some folks for that. And yeah, I mean, it really is, you know, like as much as you really can get into from like a general standpoint, which is pretty good because I've always been kind of like that kind of person in my previous roles where I love learning. That's one of the biggest things for me. So if I can't do it, I'll learn about it. I think our tools that we have nowadays make life a lot easier for, especially if you're interested. And, you know, I'm starting to see that a lot more from people, not only in the space, but even outside of it, which gives me some inspiration, you know, as we're building Foxes out.
And the big one there is learning, because the one thing that no one truly understands or appreciates, that founders in this space especially, we are learning as we go. There is no such thing as a founder that knows exactly what they're doing, and no one understands like how much time we have to put into learning about things like social media marketing and things like doing art, managing artists, managing developers, and all that sort of stuff. Draxxts and Sandman, you can both probably relate to this a lot, but it's all we do is we have to learn these things. You know, we can't just click a button and now have a social media marketer ready to go. You actually have to learn how that works. You've got to take the time to make sure that they know what they're doing by aligning, listening to their advice, but also explaining to them how things should be done, or, you know, what's the theme and what's the highlights that you need to be portraying and stuff like that. So as a founder, even though you have someone that's working for you, managing social media, managing the community and everything like that, that doesn't mean that you aren't ignorant to that task. It actually means you have to learn it in order to bring them on. And so you're saying you're going into the Instagram area now, Drax, is that right?
Yeah, we've been in there for a little bit. I want to say probably since like earlier this year. I want to say like maybe February-ish, so probably 4 months, give or take. But yeah, I mean, one of the key things too to kind of mention there, right, is like no two projects are alike. I think a lot of people that want to be founders don't necessarily understand that, and I've seen it very often. I'm sure you've seen it too, where, and you phrased it quite well, where if you push a couple buttons, like you have a marketing team ready to go, where there are people out there, you know, that I would say try and prey upon these people that are interested in creating their own project by offering, you know, some kind of services or chatter bots or like whatever the fuck. But like at the end of the day, a lot of people think that that's just an easy way of like, oh, okay, let me pay 50 grand into these like 10 different services, mint out for $500,000 and like fuck off. Like that's not how it works.
Yeah.
You know, and I've seen a lot more people attempt that and get burned hard than have been successful with it. So I think like that's a really key thing for anyone that's aspiring to be, you know, a project founder or something along those lines, is like you said, it's a lot of work, and a lot of people are interested in it because they think it's like glamorous. I've heard of many like Web 2 founders, you know, for different businesses and such say that they would never attempt, you know, Web 3 company / business, just because of the amount of time and dedication it takes, which is definitely true. So it's definitely just worth noting for anyone that is interested in creating their own thing, of just kind of weighing out all of the pros and cons prior to jumping balls deep into it.
It's the beautiful thing about Web3 and probably the most ugly thing is that, like, compared to Web 2, you build a company and you can build that in silence. You don't have anyone there, but while you do a Web 3 business, especially in this space, you have to be there with those who are financially vested in you as well. So it's like anyone that's thinking about starting a project, just be ready to like have at least, 3,000 friends in Discord every day, which sounds good, but you also have to be responsible with them and make sure you update them and all that sort of stuff. And it can get quite intense at times, especially in the NFT space. And Sandman, you are about to experience that in full force. So I definitely wish you the best. And I hope that it goes well. Like, I know that you have so much in the back that you're kind of just ready to promote and put out there. So I think that's going to go in your favor a lot, especially when you're releasing new technologies, new products and stuff like that. The community does really enjoy it. So you've probably played that really well, actually, and not just putting it all out there straight away. You're going to be able to manage that hype really well and keep people entertained and interested in what you're doing.
Yeah, and I think, one thing I've noticed about Famous Foxes, I think it's something that we would love to kind of mimic and learn from, is just how long they've been able to stay relevant. And I think that's probably one of the main things that, separates, something like Famous Foxes from all the other projects is, can you, evolve enough to stay relevant, through different times? Because obviously we've seen, even with Solana, but just crypto in general, it's cycle oriented and there's always new people coming in or people leaving. And being able to, just sustain volume and interest over a long period of time is obviously going to, take up a lot of our time, because that's how you maintain the interest of, of investors. Because even with the traditional like market per se, like you don't want to be stuck in something that isn't liquid. And I think, before we launched this project, my vision was always like, I want to have a project that's liquid enough where people can freely come in and out, and there be enough interest where people are trying out new products all the time. And that would definitely, keep people entertained enough to stay long. And I think with Joe's Escape, I think we've got a sense of that. I think it's pretty rewarding to see that. And I think if we can, just leverage that going forward and continue what we have seen, I think we can maintain the same type of relevance that Famous Foxes, for example, has had for such a long time, since like pretty much the moment I entered the space. They've kind of been around and they've been able to, keep interest very high. So I think that's something we can definitely learn from.
Yeah, and one thing that's fun too, like with what we've created at the Foxes, is I think like our platform as a whole also keeps projects relevant to a certain degree. So, like we have an extremely vibrant, raffle community, shout out to the Raffle DAO, that was spun up organically from what we had created. So like when we launched raffles, honestly, over a year ago, it wasn't like super successful overnight. It didn't actually catch traction until around November of last year. But that kind of an application and even a lot of other things too, like NFT lending, which we got into earlier this year, adds liquidity, and projects themselves can add liquidity, to their own collections, which I think also helps like a little bit of that problem in the space. Of course, dependent on how much like the project really wants to be involved with that. But having just these other things to be able to do with NFTs, not only maintains relevancy for them, it maintains liquidity for them, it keeps people engaged. Like it's kind of this whole, ecosystem versus just, if you look at, honestly, I don't know how many people in this space were here in like 2017, but that's when like CryptoPunks came out and CryptoKitties and like all these other like OG ETH NFT projects where like you just bought and held, and held long enough for some of them to appreciate in value, others to go to absolute zero. But I personally don't recall any kind of tools or things that were built that I'll say make NFTs fun or give like an additional layer to what they actually are for from 2017 until like 2021, really until I think like Solana NFTs came out, which is kind of an interesting thought to think about. But yeah, I mean, I think that's the one cool thing with what we built with Foxes and token market, and just having like all these, like this whole ecosystem. Really, it's almost like a layer one within Solana that NFTs can be integrated into, which is pretty fun.
Absolutely. And not to toot your own horn anymore, but I've always been very impressed with Famous Fox in the delivery and the conviction. You guys have managed to maintain revenue, which is extremely rare for an NFT collection in this space. You've managed to start it and continue it for such a long time. So, you know, if anyone should be looking at a successful project to inspire them, then Foxes is right up there on the top of that list, in my opinion.
No, I appreciate that. You know, it's not easy. I know we've talked about that a little bit already, but you know, our project has been out for like 20 months now, pushing 21. You know, so we're coming up on 2 years in October. I mean, it's a crazy amount of time in the space. 2 years is basically 2 weeks for most people. So to be around and relevant and thriving, you know, in 2 years later is pretty fucking awesome.
And I've actually turned into a bit of a loan shark now. I started using Citrus the other day. I definitely am impressed with the amount of versatility and tools that is available with Citrus. I wasn't prepared for that personally, but now I am a loan shark and I have to manage these lends because there's the opportunity for a lender to re-offer the same lend out to the person that's borrowed. We'll say wasn't ready, but it's fine because it's a 7-day conversation a week if they want to continue or not. But it's interesting, and I like that you guys have actually added the features that someone needs to be able to really manage lending properly. And I'm excited to know, from here, what is Dev currently working on?
Well, I don't know how much I can give out as alpha, but I would say this. I would say like part of our approach in the not so distant future is honestly to make it easier for people in a couple of different regards. One, for essentially micromanaging, your actual, let's call it like lending account. That I think it just makes sense. When we look at the way marketplaces have evolved in the ecosystem, I think there's just improvements. I wouldn't say they're perfect. I'd say they're getting better, but for people to be able to interact on a regular basis. And I know, a lot of people are kind of like against the AMM styles for marketplaces, but it really does help from a liquidity standpoint. It might not help for, prices to do a moonshot on and spike out of control, but that usually gets tempered down once supply comes back, because a lot of these things are just based off of what's staked or how long something can be unstaked, or, what are people actually doing with their NFTs in that time period. So like that's part of it. The other part, I think, is just more so from an interoperability standpoint between protocols and such. But I mean, outside of that, like I mentioned before, the whole Instagram approach with us, like, not from dev side, but, we're working on building out like our IP side and kind of, connecting more into the actual brand of Foxes. We have a few things cooking for that right now. That's more so a longer term play, and that's again to capture a larger audience, not even for NFTs, but for Foxes. Because I think, a lot of people in the space, especially that have been around for a while, can certainly understand like relevance outside of just our, little circle of NFT enthusiasts is much larger than what it is in the space. And so being able to capture attention for fun, for entertainment, leverage that for merch. Like I think Pudgy Penguins has done a great job. I'm actually staring at 2 that I purchased off of Amazon. I'm not sure if anyone else had bought into some of them, but I think they did a pretty solid job with regard to like their figures. And there's just a lot of more potential, for, I'll call it like other revenue streams outside of just NFT products. So that's one thing that we want to expand more into. It just makes more sense. We've got time, we've got, runway, we're not not changing anything on what we've created so far. And we have, the ability to kind of branch off into those kinds of segments. And yeah, aside from that, it's, enhancing what we've already created, figuring out like what the hell's going on with, NFT standards is, I'm not going to say is a Solana fork serious for some other folks. I don't think it makes much sense in my personal opinion, but if there's ever any other changes, Metaplex and such, we just have to make sure everything is like top notch for what we've created. As the PNFT change was really big for us to the point that in Foxy Swap for a single transaction, we had to drop it so that you can only have 2 PNFTs and 2 regular NFTs into it if you want plus Sol. So there's just changes like that, that I know we'll have to keep on top of as the world of NFTs expand. But yeah, no direct specific alpha of something that a competitor could come in and try and swoop on.
Interesting. I'm looking forward to what he does put out next, because it always is quite exciting. And he does do a good job at building something robust that works, which is cool to see. I'm not sure how often you guys do maintenance on, I know smart contracts don't need maintenance, but for the rest of the front end stuff, I don't know how often you have to go back and fiddle with things, but you seem to have an expanding platform that just works well. So credit to you guys for that.
Yeah, I'd say often. We normally put out about 2 announcements every week. So it usually comes out every Wednesday and every Sunday for quality of life updates, which sometimes can be small, sometimes can be big. And we've done that for, I think, over a year at this point. So, we definitely put out content often for tools. This past week was actually pretty chill. I think it's actually the first time we didn't do an announcement on Sunday just because it was just for missions for us. But yeah, usually every week we put out a couple of announcements for quality of life updates.
And the quality of life is so important. I feel like I get those requests every day. But as we lead into our launch in that as well, I might just quickly segue into maybe a 2-minute plug for GigaDEX, because I know that everyone is going to roast me for not saying anything. But essentially, we are going to be launching decentralized exchange very soon. So I was going to give a date, but I think I might leave that for an announcement so that everyone can see it all at once. But I will be making an announcement tomorrow morning on our official launch date. The DEX is now complete. It's been a journey, to say the least, but in essence, it's we're launching NFT fractionalization DEX. Essentially, you will be able to fractionalize NFTs and trade them through our brand new order book. It's a crankless order book. We process transactions in around 400 milliseconds. So with this technology, we have aimed to start off with NFT fractionalization, where you'll be able to fractionalize an expensive NFT and sell off a percentage at a time. I think a lot of people are scared on the fractionalization part, but the good news is that you can still sell and buy whole NFTs as well. Just because it can be fractionalized by 20% doesn't mean that you have to buy 20%. You can still buy a whole NFT, but you can do it in a way that hasn't really been done before, especially with an order book technology. And it being the fastest on Solana right now for front-end DEX is very exciting. And obviously with this technology, we're not going to stop there. We are currently working on some very big plans in the background where we won't say too much, but it is very exciting. And we did have an amazing breakthrough the other day where we were able to aggregate orders for other order books within 400 milliseconds. So less than a second in total, which currently is the fastest on Solana as well. When you're comparing to Bird Eye that takes, 10 plus seconds just to bring an order up on the screen, we're able to do it in less than a second. So we're pretty excited about having that technology. We have figured out something else as well. We're bringing that out, I think, in the next 3 weeks. So we're very excited to be jumping straight into the DeFi world and kind of rebuilding and innovating on technology that's so desperately needed in Solana. But we are going to be launching our fractionalization DEX, I would say within a week's time. We are going to be putting some of the top collections on there, including Famous Fox. I have got approval for that one. I've bought a few Foxes myself. I have one on missions and I have one in my treasury, and I've got another one ready to fractionalize and start trading on the DEX. So you'll be able to jump into that and see what that's about and take the opportunity to start using more traditional trading methods like limit orders and market orders, which you may have seen recently with another project releasing an NFT order book. I think there's an announcement coming for that in the next 12 hours for another project, but that'll be interesting to see. That'll probably condition you guys, the listeners here, in how to use an order book in placing a limit order, and then we'll come out with the big stuff in a week's time, and you'll be able to really embrace and engage NFT trading in a completely different way, something that's a bit more sustainable for all of Solana, not just the people that have the bag. So finishing that plug, I think we are going to wrap up soon, but before we go, I do want to ask you guys, as founders, your decompression methods. How do you relax after doing a 12-hour sprint? Because I know none of you are getting proper sleep, but you must have a method to be able to relax at the end of the day. Sandman, tell me, how do you relax after you've done your 10-hour, 12-hour sprint?
Yeah, it really depends, right? It depends if I want to go out or not, because I do live in Miami, so I always have the liberty of just leaving my house at like 3 a.m, and there'd be something to do. But usually what I just do is I just leave the cave. I just I go see my family. I spend time with them. I think one thing that's always been a pillar for me is just being able to talk to people outside of what we do. I think that's really important. I always try to talk to my devs too about do you guys see your families? Are you leaving? Are you doing this and that? And I think family for me has always been super important. They obviously can't figure out what the hell is going on here, but I try to explain to them enough where it's interesting and where it's at least enough for me to kind of dissociate with everything we do. So it's either family or just going out to see friends, and that's pretty much it. I also I was telling Wing, I think for me just being able to exercise and get physical activity in, eat well. I think those are all super important. But at the end of the day, you can whatever we do, it is a lot of work. You need to be mentally strong, physically strong. There's a lot that goes into it. But I think I'll leave you with this. There's no monetary value that you can put on a community. And obviously, I have experience in the Web2 world. We've built products. We've had a lot of people try our products, use our services. There's nothing like this where you can have backers like this that are truly invested in the success of not only the project, not only their investments, but other people in the space as well. So I think regardless of what we put in, the blood, sweat, and tears, like you've noted, I think at the end of the day, there is no monetary value that we can put on this, and I think I would do it a million times over if I had to, and so I'm really happy at all the sacrifices.
That's perfect. And you'll be even happier soon, I'm sure. Drax, do you want to let me know what's your decompression method, and also give me a wrap up for Famous Foxes as well?
Yeah, of course. Honestly, for me, it's probably going to be a little bit different than I would say quite a few other founders. But since I have a family, it really is spending some family time. We set up a little 12-foot pool in the backyard, and so it's just honestly trying to put your phone down for fucking 5 minutes and just go outside and kind of enjoy it. It's probably my primary decompression method. Because the convenient thing is, it might only be for a couple hours out of the day, but it certainly helps a lot, is what I would kind of use right now. The weather's decent and all that fun stuff in the States, so it's quite nice. As far as a wrap up from Foxes, one of the things, we're getting dangerously close to 100K TVL and Citrus, so I'm excited once we cross that barrier, kind of then going for the goalposts of 1 million or wherever. Essentially we can get up to. It really is based off of the level of liquidity that's interested in NFT lending in the space right now. And yeah, outside of that, just keep an eye out for their enhancements and things that we put out there. Our missions go live every week. We have a crazy amount of foxes that still jump in and do missions all the time, which are quite fun, and leveling them up and getting rewards and all that fun shit. So you guys probably see a lot of those messages go out where people are claiming, and yeah, I think that's it for the most part. And check us out on Instagram if you haven't. I get a lot of good feedback, and it's funny too. I get a lot of people that DM me every once in a while and are like, "Wait, I didn't know you guys had an Instagram account. This content's hilarious." So yeah, if you guys have a chance, check us out on Instagram and let me know what you think. If you think it's trash, tell me why. If you think it's great, also tell me why. Definitely definitely looking at expanding that more. So I'd love to get feedback on it.
Absolutely, I will. Instagram is one thing I try to stay away from the most, but I will check it out, take a look, and see what's going on. Wing, before I get to you, I want to tell my decompression method. I basically just work all the time, no decompress. No, I sometimes go out, leave the house. I do spend most of my time indoors. Every now and then I will go out, do a bit of gardening, work out, of course, and just try and get everything done. I'll start to decompress once we've got this DEX launch. Don't worry, guys, it's going to happen. And when I do, I'm going to have a very good sleep. Wing, tell me, how do you decompress? And if you want to just kind of do a wrap up for BeJoe's as well, what's coming up, if you have any dates planned or anything like that.
Yeah, sure. Mine's not as good and as healthy and wholesome as everyone. I'm just like stacking the screen time at the moment. I mean, in Australia, it's the middle of winter, so it's like going outside in Australian winter is not too bad anyway. But I think the main thing I'm doing at the moment is just playing video games. So I'm playing Zelda with my daughter. So she give her the controller and she thinks she's playing and she gets along really. She really kind of like enjoys the story and wants to play half an hour, 40 minutes every day. So there's that. And then the other thing, the screen time, I'm watching sports on TV. It's really just 18 hours of screen time a day at the moment, so it's really bad. I really need to like get a hobby that's not on the screen, right? Yeah, just to wrap up, we don't have announcements yet, but we'll have the announcement of the announcement is that we'll be announcing the launchpad and mint date and all the mint details pretty soon. I think potentially in the next 24 hours or so, but we do want to mint before the end of the month, so it's not like a long way off. We're just kind of like working around scheduling of other things that are happening in the ecosystem. There's some big mints this week. We don't want to like double up with them, but I think it's kind of inevitable if we want to get it in this month. So yeah, just look out for that announcement. I'm sure you'll see it. We're going to do a big post, and Sandman's got something up his sleeve for that. So I'll leave it at that.
Perfect. I'm ready. My bags are packed for BeJoe's. I was fortunate enough to get in early, so I'm ready for that. I've also got in on that pre-sale and looking forward to the mint and what you guys have coming up. So yeah, good luck to you and everything you're doing. You're both working very hard, and thank you for coming on. Draxxts as well, thank you for coming on. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it as well. I know it's been a minute since we've been on a space, so I appreciate you reaching out.
Yeah, absolutely. You were the first one to go to. So guys, thank you very much for coming today. Thank you for all the listeners, for all the communities jumping on and having a listen and joining us. The point of the space being called Blood, Sweat and Tears is we are going to focus on just getting founders on. It's not going to be a regular space. I'm not going to commit to doing 2 or 1 a week. It's simply going to be when we can get some good quality founders to join us on the space and have a chat with them and kind of just discuss what's going on for them, their lives and their projects, and also just a place for people to chill out and enjoy themselves, because as we know, founders are easily the hardest working people in this space. Definitely talking about myself there as well. Stay tuned to the announcements in Famous Fox, in BeJoe's and in GigaDAO, because we all have some really exciting stuff coming up. Stay tuned, guys, and take it easy. Thanks again.